Okay, time for a quick video on string changing. Here are your old strings, so let's get rid of them. Actually, I need to keep these for sacrificial string purposes, so remove them side by side. And in this case, I do it side by side because I've got an adjustable nut fitted, and that's a free moving piece which I don't want to come pinging off one side or the other. So if I work in from outside first, it keeps the nut in place, but it will be movable afterwards. So remove your old strings. Now, getting them out of this kind of thing should be relatively easy, but they do have a tendency to catch on everything in sight because they're coiled up at the end. So if you can get the whole set out in one go without catching like that, so this will waste a load of time faffing around with this, trying to get these out cleanly. Possibly, let's pull these two out together. Right, let's get these out of the way. Right. Spare strings for a Les Paul setup. So this is a three-a-side stringing operation, and sometimes you'll see guitars being strung in weird and wonderful ways that don't help things when it comes to tuning stability. Now what we've got on here is a Tusk adjustable nut, custom made for this guitar. That's buyable. This is the custom made bit, but it's very good for tuning stability because Tusk is the best material you can make a nut out of. So basically we're ready to restring. Now what we can do is find a blade, which I've now lost. I'm restringing this with hybrid 9s, and what we can do is string it off the guitar if we want, first of all, just because it's easier to get your hands on. So E, A, and so on and so on. So the key thing to restringing is if your nut isn't right, then restringing isn't going to help you stay in tune. New strings aren't particularly better or worse at staying in tune. To stay in tune properly, your guitar has to have two things taken care of. First of all is the nut slots have to be friction free and not gripping the strings, and the second thing is you have to take all the slack out of your new strings. Now that is something you can do even if you can't do the nut part, but I would advise you, if you can get a luthier and spend 25-30 quid getting a Tusk nut put on, even if it's not adjustable the way I make them, get one put on and have the first fret action set to the perfect height. That will give you a very big leg up towards stable tuning. So I put my stop bar back on, and on this one I'm going to start with the G string, sorry, the D and the G, because only, you don't have to do it on yours, but on mine I want to hold down this nut. So the first thing I do, let's get you zoomed in as close as is reasonable. I'm going to put the string in, and I'm going to make sure it's pulled all the way through, seated in the nut and reasonably taut. And I grab it, zoom out a bit, grab it, and I'm going to pull it back 1 fret's worth, holding onto it there, and I start winding the string, pulling it taut. So once it's taut, I can lift it up and I go over the top of the free string. So I guide the held string over the top of the free string, and as it comes round, I then push it down under, and to help it I lift up the free string so that the held string goes under. So over the free string and then under the free string, and that's our D string done. And then I cut right back to the base of the tuner, or base of the spare string. Now, to help you along, it's better if you line the holes up in a straight line with the body first, because the difficult bit on a 3-a-side headstock comes now when you do the treble side, if you're on a right-handed guitar, because you have to do the thing backwards, which is a little bit less sensible. So you again put it on, make sure it's pulled through the stop bar, seated properly on the bridge, under tension a little bit, and then pull back 1 fret's worth. And as you pull it back, I then hold it down with my thumb. Now this is moving freely, but with my right hand I keep the thumb pressure on, and that pulls the string over, tightens it, and the free string is going underneath the held string. So point being this, the held is over the free, like we did last time. This, as it comes round, then keep it tight, and I direct the held string now underneath the free string on the second time round, and until it tightens up. Check it through. It often comes off the saddle, so make sure it's back on the saddle before you put it on any tension at all. Okay, so, and then cut right down short. Now I can pretty much do anything I want. I'll do 2 on either side now, or 1 and 1, whichever I can be bothered to do. Same principle, pull through, pull back a fret, hold, direct it over the loose string, and it comes round, direct it under the loose string, and it helps to lift the loose string up like that. And as it comes round, before you tighten it, make sure it's seated properly in the stop bar or the bridge and on the saddle, and as it comes round we'll take off the excess like that, and I'll do the lower E as well. So this makes a very tidy, short amount of excess string going around the pegs. Now the truth is, the more spare material, spare string you have on the peg, the more potential slack it will hold, and it could continue to release that slack over time, helping it to go out of tune, which you don't want. So we're going for a sort of a minimum amount to grip strongly, enough to grip and not so much that we store up tuning problems. Now with the thing to do, that 1 fret pullback that I'm doing is really important with these plain strings, because they will slip. So if you do any less than a whole fret's worth, they will potentially slip, because it's not enough to seize the string. And it's very important to push down with your thumb as it comes round. The spare string goes under first time, under the held string, and then we push the held string under the spare string, the free string, surplus string, whatever you want to call it, second time round. And as it's coming around here, I will snip that off. A bit out of control because I don't know where it's gone now, but hey. And again, before you tighten, ensure that it's on the saddle and it's not caught on the edge of either the tremolo block if it's a Strat, or the back of the stop bar if it's a Les Paul. And the final one comes around now. Again, line it up, check it's on properly, pull it back a whole fret's worth, and again hold down tight with the thumb, held string over the loose string. As it comes round, pull up that, keep this tension on, and then direct it underneath the loose string on the second turn. And sometimes it goes a little bit further round again, which is fine on this treble string. And then you remove the excess, if I can get it there. Okay, so that's the first thing. Remember what I said, take care of the nut, whether it's a Strat or a Tele type guitar. Get this nut sorted out. In this case, I sorted out by having a tusk adjustable nut. Now the next important thing, pull away for this a little bit, is once you've got your strings on loosely, check that everything's in place. There's nothing caught on the edge of anywhere. There's nothing or to the side of the saddles, everything is in the right place. And then the first thing I do is I tend to hold onto the base down here, and I gently pull the strings to make sure they're seated everywhere they should be. And if there's a problem at this stage, you'll hear it go ping or bang, and you'll get a sudden handful of excess string. That's usually when something's caught somewhere and it's just released. Okay, so that's that. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a note from my tuner. That's an A. Then I tune everything else up to it. Now if you don't comfortable with that kind of tuning, it's not precise, it's just to get it up to pitch, or roughly to pitch. If you're not comfortable with that, use a tuner. Once it's in tune, then stretching begins, and I recommend you get strings between thumb and forefinger, so the only pressure really is on the string in this area, not on the anchor points, because that's where it's liable to break. If you just yank the string and it pulls hard on those ends, it's liable to snap. But if you use your thumb and forefingers to do the most stretching work up and down the string, every string, and what you'll hear straight away, and you'll hear how far out of tune it goes from doing this, and that's the slack in the string length from the ball end right up to the wound around bits on the tuners. That's that slack coming out, and it will result in your guitar detuning. And you'll hear me tune up to it. So all of that was slack that, if I hadn't have done that mechanically, would have come out while I was playing at some time when I least wanted it to, i.e. when I was making bends or using a tremolo on some guitars. So you do this basically twice, 3 times. In fact, you do it until it stops detuning. Now this is a hybrid 9 set of strings. 9s, by the time you get up to the high E and the B, but particularly the high E, you've got to be careful only to bend between thumb and forefinger, not pulling too much on the other parts, because it's liable to break, and if you're going to lose a string, it'll be when stretching it. Again, tune. And then at this point I often give it another sort of strong tug on the, particularly on the bass strings. They hold a lot of slack, and it's also, they can withstand a bit more pulling than your treble strings, plain strings can. If you pull too hard in this position, they do snap. Again, tune again, staying in tune a little bit. Very close to there. Now, last thing you want to do is bend a load of strings as hard as you can. This is quite low actually. I think the action has gone down since I took the bridge off. God yes, no wonder it's hard to play. Hold on. Let's get it up to the proper height. Which way are we going? We're going this way. Come along now. Quite slightly hard to do, but it works. Anyway, oh, of course, why am I doing that? I keep thinking this is a Gibson. It's a bleeding standard, bog standard Epiphone. It's got a screw adjuster. Plonker. Sorry about that. I knew there's something over ridiculously slow. That's about 1.4. That's too high. That's too low. So dial this one in, and that one out. That one's too high. A bit more. So we have a little bit low, a little bit low. So half turn on each side. A full turn to begin with, and let's go down. 1.5, 1.5. A little bit in, a little bit more in. Nice, nice. Yep. So that will need tuning again. Okay, so bends. There you go, in tune. So that's the secret of it, stretching out before you attempt to go and play it. Now we've stretched the strings. This now will stay in tune. Because of the nut, it will also stay in tune doubly well because of that. But half of the problem is taken care of with the slack in the strings, half of the problem of stability is taken care of with the nut, and we've got both taken care of here now. So this guitar, I promise, I'm confident, I know for a fact, will stay in tune really well. Okay, thanks for watching.